Hey there everybody, Coach Brandon here with Coach Adam, and he's going to be helping me teach you guys more about the front headlock system today. This week in our front headlock system, we're going to talk about proactive entries. Entries into the front headlock where we are taking the initiative to take our opponent's head and pull it, forcing it lower than our armpit. Once his head is lower than our armpit, we can lock that front headlock control with the chin strap and the elbow control, or with using closed wedges around our opponent's head and arm. Now once we have that front headlock control, once we've beaten our opponent's head down, we've gotten it, oftentimes we're still in a standing position. But that's not a very controlling position. We want to break our opponent down to an unathletic position, down to their elbows and knees. So, or either down to the elbows and knees, or any other dominant position, a dominant pin, top side control, top mount, or maybe even top position to get a takedown. Okay, how do we take our opponent from a standing front headlock and put them down on the floor? We have a number of ways to do this, with a circular sprawl, hook sweep or hook takedown, a trip, and an ankle pick, and we'll see how to do that as well. So the first section of this video will be several ways of hand fighting, of wrestling to bring our opponent's head down below our armpit. And then the second half of the video will be 4 solid methods of taking our opponent from a standing front headlock and bringing him down to the floor, scoring a takedown. All right, let's get into it. So the first technique I'm going to show is an inside straight snap, and then after that we'll look at a cross snap. So we'll see a straight snap and a cross snap. Now what does this mean? When I come out to grip up with my opponent, I want to take the inside position. When he goes to reach for me and I go to reach for him, I want the inside position. And I'm going to take double inside bicep ties. I can thumb post on his biceps just like so. Okay? So if he were to try to shoot into my legs or anything at this point, he goes to grab my legs, I have the inside position. Okay? Now from the inside position, I want to control his head, and I want to start bringing his head down below the height of my armpit. So I take one of the inside bicep ties and I bring it up here to a wrist deep collar tie, where I grip with the wrist behind the head, my fingers fold over to the far side of the neck, and then my elbow comes down. Now, from right here, we want a little bit of a push-pull action. Okay, I want him to push into me. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my inside bicep tie and my elbow to give a little push into Adam. Just a little push. Just a little pop. I pop into him, and as soon as he pops back into me, that's what we're looking for. So now, what I'm going to do to snap him down is I'm going to take a side step and a back step, and I'm going to create a hole into which to pull Adam. 1, 2. Okay? As I do that, my left hand goes from a thumb post on the bicep, and I reach back behind the tricep so I have a good pulling grip. This is a good pushing grip, but it won't help me pull Adam down. I want a pulling grip, so I go wrist deep behind the tricep, behind the armpit. I have a wrist deep grip behind the head, so when I go 1 and I go 2, I move my weight from my feet into my hands. Okay, come back up. Okay, it takes a little getting used to, but right now you bear all of your weight on your feet. I want you to hang your body weight off your partner's body. So we side step, and then when I back step, I put my weight from my feet into my hands, and I put my weight on my partner. Okay, so we come in, inside bicep ties, we come up to the collar, give a little push, I side step, I back step, and I pull my weight into my hands, pulling him down to the floor. Now from here, I've pulled his head lower than my armpit, and in doing so, I can now drop to my knee, I can establish my wrist deep chin strap, my shoulder position, and my control arm around his elbow, either open wedges or closed wedges. So again, that's a straight snap. In a straight snap, my collar tie arm snaps my opponent down to a front headlock on the same side. So in a straight snap, a right-handed collar tie will snap your opponent down into a right-handed front headlock. Now, then we have the idea of a cross snap. In a cross snap, my right hand is going to feed my opponent's head into my left hand, and I feed him into the chin strap. So when I snap him down, I want to snap him down so that his trachea goes right here into this pocket where my forearm meets my thumb. So I'm here, when I snap him down, I catch him right here, like I'm catching a football into my body. Right here. Snap and catch. And then I can take the control arm on the other side. Once I have the chin strap over here, I take my control arm on the other side and we're ready to go. So that's our cross snap. Same entry as the straight snap. I come in, when Adam reaches for me, I take inside position on the biceps. I come up to a collar tie so I control the head, so I'm controlling the top of the tower. So I have maximum leverage to push and pull. Now from here I give him a little push backward to get him to push back into me. Once he's pushing back into me, we're ready to go. We start the footwork of doing the side step and the back step to make room for him. And as I do that, I go from pushing to pulling. Pushing grips with the thumb post, pulling grips over the armpit. So we give our initial push, he pushes back, I go, and I snap my weight into my hands. Now that I have his head down lower than my armpit, I come down, I secure my front headlock. That was the straight snap. Cross snap, I come inside, push, I give a little push, he pushes back. I once again do the same footwork, and this time, I bring my left arm right here, and I make a hole into which to pull his head. So I side step right here, snap, and I stay up for me, and I just pull his head into this hole, just like so. Now from here, I control the elbow, and we're ready to break him down to an unathletic position. We'll see how to do that later. One more time, inside position, a little push, he pushes back, we snap him into the front headlock, just like so. We snap him into the chin strap. We control the elbow, and we're ready to go. Now, this is a situation where the first snap worked. Against tough resisting opponents, you might have to keep snapping and changing directions to keep your opponent off balance and second guessing. So we're going to look at the idea of side-to-side snap downs. In side-to-side snap downs, my arms are going to function something like windshield wipers. Okay? So I got my collar tie and my elbow control. And what's happening is I take my opponent's elbow in underneath of his own head. This is already going to mess with his balance just a little bit. And then I use my collar tie and I pull him over his own elbow. Like so. Now when I do this, nobody likes having their head pushed around, so he's naturally going to start to posture up a little bit. And as he goes to posture up and go the other way, I take him the other direction and we circle this way. He postures up, I come in, and I circle him back to the other direction. So as I'm working, my arms do this kind of windshield wiper motion. Okay? This way we circle, he fights, and we go back the other way, we circle this way. So again, I come in with inside bicep ties. I give a little push, he pushes back. I take his elbow in underneath of his head. I take his head over his own elbow. I back step and I start to pull him down. He's trying to resist and fight up. As he does so, I take him in the other direction. And we go side to side until eventually we can cross snap him right here. We cross snap into a front headlock where I put the bend of my wrist right on the trachea. I fold my hand over the face for our chin strap. My shoulder goes in behind the head. Now from here, my left hand goes here. I find the elbow, and we're ready to break our opponent down into an unathletic position. So we've seen the straight snap, we've seen the cross snap, and now we've seen side-to-side snaps. Now, what if we have a situation where our opponent actually comes to grips with us? Okay, what if they take a collar tie on us and they want to snap us down? Okay, you can do the snap down through mutual collar ties, but it's trickier. It's a little tricky. The problem, if Adam comes up and he takes a collar tie on me, if I take the same collar tie on Adam and I try to snap him down, the problem is he's holding himself up on me. So when I go to snap him down, I come down too. I go to bring his head down and I end up coming down. I cannot get his head below my armpit. We've locked into each other. Okay? So this is the problem. We have to get rid of this collar tie if I want to get a snap down. There's a few different ways to do it. One way we can do it is with mutual collar ties, where he has a collar tie on me, and I have a collar tie on him. Mutual collar ties, just like so, okay? My second hand is gonna drape, wrist deep, over the elbow. So I take my wrist, and I chop it over the bend of his elbow, and then I can grab his arm like so, okay? And I can apply downward pressure here. Now, I'm gonna push into Adam, get him to push back into me, getting that same push-pull action. I'm gonna perform the same side step and back step that we did before. But this time, when I snap Adam down, all the snap is on his collar tie arm. My goal is to get this arm off my head. So when I snap, I'm gonna tuck my chin. Okay, you can either look away, or you can try to duck your head underneath. But we want to take away his gripping surface. If he makes a strong grip and I just start to snap, it's on there pretty good, okay? So when we're here and I have this wrist draped over and I want to snap, I want to, you saw how he stumbled forward when I broke him down? We get him stumbling forward and our collar tie arm takes over. So one more time, we saw I can either look away as I snap down, or I can, good strong grip for me, or I can pummel my head under the elbow as I snap down. We're here, and I snap him down, okay? Now, this arm does 90% of the snap down work. But once his arm comes off, this arm does the last 10%, okay? So we're here, I get a little bit of a push, he pushes back into me. I'm here, look away, pulling our arm down, trying to pull the head lower than the armpit. Let's go again. We're here, I'm pushing in, he pushes back into me. I take his head lower than my armpit, like so. And now we're ready to catch the chin strap here with a cross snap. One more time. He's got a collar tie on me, I take a collar tie on him. From here, I don't pull down on his head for the snap down. That's not going to do anything. It's just going to lock us into place. Okay, so I'm going to go wrist deep over the elbow. I push. I get him to push back into me. Once I feel it, I go to hit the snap down on that arm. Once I get his head low, like so, I come in and secure the front headlock with a good tight chin strap, and I control the elbow. And now we're ready to break our opponent down to the floor. So that's with a mutual collar tie. Now let's look at a situation where we go with an over tie. In this situation, my opponent takes a collar tie on me. But rather than taking a mutual collar tie on him, I go over and around his collar tie to set my collar tie. Okay? So we both have a collar tie on each other, but I go over and around his. I get him inside position. Understand, if he takes the collar tie on me and I sit here without a grip, he can pull me down. That's not good. So when he takes a collar tie on me, I can't just let this sit here. I have to either anchor myself to him with a mutual collar tie like so, or with an over tie. So now when he goes to pull me down, my collar tie on him holds me up. Alternatively, we can take the collar tie off, and we'll look at doing that in a little bit. But for now, let's stick with collar tie variations. So we saw the mutual ties, where I use the snap down on that arm. Now let's look at the over tie. I come over and around his collar tie, just like so. Let's rotate. Once again, I come in here, I get an inside bicep tie or a wrist grip, something here where there's generally some hand fighting going on here. He's trying to grip me, and I'm trying to grip him. Maybe I pull back in the way, maybe we're doing this thing. Okay, this is very common. I get a push into Adam, I get him to push back into me. Now from here, the trick with this collar tie is to turn and look away from your partner and turn your toes. I turn my toes, I look away from my partner, and look at how he's losing the gripping surface. Lastly, I use my left shoulder to push forward and I bump that hand off. Now, without his hand in place, I pull everything down toward the floor, and I come in and I take my chin strap and my elbow control, my shoulder position. So once again, he has the collar tie. I could go with mutual collar ties. I could do this. But I tend to find this works a little better. So we come in with an over tie. I push into Adam, he pushes back into me. Now from here, my toes turn. So everything is beginning to go in that direction. Turning, looking that way, and we pull everything down toward the floor. Now with his head pushed down below my armpit, my right hand comes back over. I take my chin strap, I take my elbow control, and once again we're ready to break our opponent down to the floor. So that was with an overtime. You can use a hand assist with this overtime. It takes the collar tie, I go with an over tie. My right hand can come here and I can drape over the elbow. So now, we're doing it just like we did with mutual collar ties. Remember, a snap on the arm. But we're doing so with opposite grips. I control the head, and I control the elbow. Just like when I did it on the other side, where I controlled the head, and I controlled the elbow. Okay? Now from here, same thing. I push into Adam, he pushes back into me. My toes turn and face the direction I want to take Adam. On this one, my shoulder turns and I pull his collar tie off me. My right hand pulls the collar tie off, and now my two hands working together pull everything down to the floor. Now from here, I can turn and face Adam, snatching the front headlock, snatching the chin strap. I set my shoulder position in behind the head, and I control the elbow. And then from there, I can snap him down to the floor. Another great option is a Russian tie, okay? A Russian 2-on-1. So he comes up with a collar tie on me. We saw that I can go with a collar tie, an elbow, an over tie with an option to use elbow control as well. And now we're going to look at situations where I physically take this Russian 2-on-1, I pull it off, like so. So when he has this collar tie on me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up, I'm going to grab his elbow just like so. Thumb posting underneath the elbow, underneath the tricep. My right hand comes up here and I grab the wrist. Now from right here, just like when we did the over tie, my toes turn. I turn and I look. I use my left shoulder to bump his elbow and I pull the arm off my head. Now once I pull the arm off my head, look at how I'm going to pull his shoulder tight to me, and I want to keep my left shoulder in behind his shoulder. Let's rotate. I want my left shoulder to dominate on top of and behind of Adam's shoulder. Okay? Now I want Adam's feet to go back so I can get his head to go low. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this Russian 2-on-1 to threaten a back trip. I come in here, I push, and I get his feet back. Now with his feet back, I'm going to use my Russian 2-on-1, and I'm going to pin his hand to the floor. Okay? Now from here, my right arm goes over the head, I get my chin strap, I set my shoulder position, and I control the elbow of his feet. So again, that's using the Russian tie. He gets a collar tie on me, and we use a Russian 2-on-1, or a Russian tie. I come up on the elbow, I grab the wrist. From here I turn, look, pulling everything off, and I solidify my control using my shoulder to control Adam's shoulder. When Adam goes to posture up and circle away from me, I follow him, and I keep my shoulder heavy on his shoulder, like so. I'm pulling down, I'm putting my body weight on. He goes to stand up, and I stay heavy. From here, I step behind, I push him backwards. And now that his feet are back and his head is forward, I use my grip here to pull his hand down to the floor, and I pin his hand with my body weight. When he goes to take his right hand off the floor, there's a lot of weight holding it down. Now from this position, my right arm comes up over the head, and I take my wrist deep chin strap. My shoulder finds position, and I find my elbow control. And that's our Russian 2-on-1, our Russian tie snap now. Okay, so far we've been looking at grips at more of a distance. Okay, we started off with more distance, thumb post and collar tie. We got a little closer when he started taking a collar tie on me, and we started getting a little closer still when we came in with the Russian 2-on-1. Now we're going to look at situations where we're very close, we're chest to chest. Situations like underhooks and overhooks. Okay? There'll be some situations where I want to come in and get an underhook on my opponent to either control the hips or to control the far shoulder or the near shoulder. Okay? Adam might want to do the same thing, and we'll talk about how to do that. Some ways, a way to get an underhook, for example. We're here in our stance, and I come in and I take grips like so, where the backs of my hands face each other and the weaknesses of the grip face outward. I take this grip. When Adam goes to strip the grip, he's got to go in an outward direction with his hands. So there's one, there's two, okay? So, or he just peels the grip, yep. As the hands go out and away, to separate the, yep, he leaves behind an underhook. His arm goes away from the body and he gives the inside position. Show it from this angle. So we're here, he goes to hand fight, gets out, and I get the underhook right here. Okay. Now, from the underhook, I want to control his shoulder. Come in, I get my grips, he goes out and away, I stay my underhook. Now, from right here, there's a couple ways to do this. I can either go with an underhook on the near shoulder here, combined with a collar tie, and I can pull down with the underhook, and I can pull down with the head control, that works. I can do a straight snap. I have the underhook here pulling down on the shoulder, and I have a collar tie here pulling down on the head. And I can snap him down from a right-handed collar tie to a right-handed front headlock. We can do a straight snap there. So that's one good option that works. Another great option that works is the post on the head. You can combine it with a shoulder crunch. So maybe a shoulder crunch or pushing on the head. Let me show you. So I come in, I take my grips. I take my underhook, I grab the shoulder. Now from right here, I could get a shoulder crunch if Adam's standing tall, and I feel like it's hard to get his head low. I could take a palm-to-palm grip right here on top of the shoulder with my two arms. And I can use the palm-to-palm grip now to start pulling down on the shoulder to lower the height of his head. Okay? From a situation where his head is now low, I can shoot this arm straight over the top, going around, and I can take my chin strap. And then from here, we're ready to break him down to the floor. So you come in, underhook, right here, he stands up, I get my shoulder crunch. And I try to pull down. Now, if he's standing too tall, and I struggle to pull down with a shoulder crunch, I can use a little reap to get the head low. So I get my underhook, I get my shoulder crunch, and he stands tall. He doesn't want to be broken down. I back step to the outside ankle line. I take my hamstring inside of his knee, I lift, and I pull his head low. And now with the head low, my arm shoots right over the top. I take my chin strap, and now I'm ready to bring my partner down to the mat. Another way I can do this, inside position here, I can just post the head away. Okay, if I can keep his head low enough to post it away, like so, now I just take my arm right over, and there's the front headlock. So that's not an underhook. We use the underhook to bring the shoulder low. Once the shoulder comes low, the head comes with it, and once the head gets lower than the armpit, the front headlock's there. We can do it with an overhook. What if Adam takes an underhook on me? And this gets to be a problem. So I can take my arm right here and I latch it in to an overhook. So I want to use the pocket of my elbow to control his shoulder. I'm not interested really in my hand position. I'm interested rather in my elbow taking a good bite on Adam's shoulder, like so. So Adam comes in with his underhook, I lock an overhook. Now from right here with the overhook, I like to control the wrist and I like to threaten the throw. I back step to the ankle line, I give a little bit of a reap, and as I reap that leg out, my overhook pulls Adam's head down and low. Once I get his head down and low, I come up over the top, and there's my front headlock. He comes into an underhook, I lock my overhook. I like to get wrist control, it's not necessary, you can do this without wrist control. I've also done this posting my hand on the floor as I try to take him down. And snapping into the front headlock there. So you got a hand post option, or the far arm, either wrist control, elbow control, something like that. So he comes in, I take an overhook, I get wrist control, I come in and I threaten to throw. Right here, back, here. I lift this leg as I drive forward, pulling his head down low. Okay, usually when I do this, I pull forward, I'm trying to do it a little slow. But as I pull down, I pull forward, kind of whipping him around the corner. Let me show that again because that's important. As I come in, I get my grips outside ankle line. I'm going to take his leg back and up. And once he's on one leg, I use my overhook to pull him around the corner, getting his head low. And once his head is low below my armpit, the front headlock's right here. And now we're ready to break him down to the floor. One more setup to get your opponent's head low. Maybe I could have shown this first because it's at the greatest distance. Is a fake shot, feint. Okay. Reviewing what we went over so far, we saw the distance, we saw straight snaps, and we saw cross snaps. Then we saw a little closer, we had the collar tie, and I have neutral, the snap down here, or the snap down with the over tie, or the Russian. Then we got into chest-to-chest scenarios, things with the underhook and the overhook. But from a greater distance, from out here, if I have an opponent who's worried about my shot, I lower my level, I take a step forward, I reach for the legs, and his head comes low. As his head comes low, I come back up, I snatch the head, just like snow, and we go into a cross snap. And I use a cross snap to pull him in. So a little deception. We're mixing in some deception into our combat strategy. I'm here, I go low, I go like I'm going for the legs. As soon as his legs go back and his head comes low and his hands go low to stop the shot, I come back right up into the front headlock. We're here. And then once we're here, we break him down to the mat. All right. So that's all of our entries, our proactive entries, where I physically control my opponent's head and pull it down into straight snaps and cross snaps, or where I physically control my opponent's shoulder through things like Russian 2-on-1s, underhooks and overhooks, and I pull his head down lower than the armpit. But you'll notice a lot of these snap downs ended up with us in a standing front headlock scenario. The standing front headlock is not optimal. I don't have good control of Adam. From the standing front headlock, I don't have control of his hips as well. Usually when I finish a guillotine, I want to control the hips to some degree. It's really hard to do that from the standing front headlock. It's hard to go into a lot of your attacks. He's very mobile, he's very athletic, he's on both of his feet, he can move around very quickly. We want to break him down to the mat, to an unathletic position. This could be the most common form, is going to be just a sprawl, a circular sprawl or a shuffling sprawl to bring him down to his elbows and knees. Other forms of this might put my opponent onto his back and give me top position. I'm going to show you a number of ways. We're going to look at the circular sprawl or shuffling sprawl. We're going to look at the hook sweep or the hook takedown. We're going to look at the trip, and we're going to look at the ankle pick. Okay? So in a situation where I come in, I've snapped Adam down to a front headlock. The first one we're going to go over is the most basic, the one that's going to be most important for you to know, and that's the circular sprawl or shuffling sprawl. From the standing front headlock, I don't just want to snap him down into my legs. I don't want to pull him down into a situation where you're going to grab my legs, take me down. So I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my legs out of the way. I take a side step and a second side step. Okay, so I'm sidestepping or shuffling when I go here. Now as I shuffle, look what happens. Watch Adam's body. See, he's facing this way right now. When I have this chin strap and I begin shuffling laterally, it starts to rotate and it pulls him out of position. So it becomes very difficult for Adam to fight two directions of movement. Adam will have to fight circular motion, where I'm pulling him in a circle, as I apply a pulling downward force on the head. You'll see a lot of people who try to snap their opponent down right from here, and they go straight, and either they pull him into the legs, or he puts his hands on the floor, and he's only got to worry about one direction of snap. Feet up, yeah, exactly. He's only got to worry about one direction. But when I start snapping him down as I rotate, that changes the game entirely. It's very hard for him to fight the snap down while also fighting a rotational movement. So when I get my initial snap, here, when I'm ready to snap him down, I'm not just going to drop my knees. I'm not just going to go here. You can, but that can backfire too. So I'm going to get a shuffling action. Shuffling across the mat. And as I shuffle, that's when I drop to my knees. And I drag him down to the floor, just like so. Once he's on the floor, we can go into all of our attacks. So maybe Adam takes the collar tie on me. I come in with a rush on my back trip. I take his hand to the floor, he stands up, and we end up right here. Now from right here, I shuffle and sprawl. Then from this situation, I transition to my high wrist guillotine, stepping around the corner, pulling guard, and we have our guillotine choke. We also have the hook sweep. I snap my opponent down here. Okay? And I'm having trouble snapping him down all the way to the mat. Another option I have is a hook sweep. I'm going to sidestep to the outside ankle line. Which side? The side opposite the head. When I have this chin strap, let's go down over here, in guard, I have the chin strap here. Adam wants to pass to the outside of that leg. He wants his head and his hips on opposite sides of the body. Conversely, if I put Adam's head over here, Adam wants to pass with his hips to this side over here. That's how he stops it. On the other hand, if I'm taking this choking arm here, I want to get my leg up and over. Here. Now when Adam tries to pass guard to the proper side, my leg shuts his hips out. So that's what we want. We want a situation where he cannot jump over our body so that his head is on one side, his hips are on the other. That's a no-no. So,